How's everybody doing today? Well, there's still a few more people coming in. So the session you're in today is Meaningful Life and Engagement in the Greenhouse Homes. So if that's not the session that you wanted to be in, you know now. But thank you for those of you who are here at this session. The first thing before we get started is I wanted to make an announcement in terms of one of the requirements for those of you needing to get continuing education credits. And I'll be one of the individuals at the end of the presentation. So if you need CEU credits, see me, and I will take care of those on my phone. The other announcement is a statement from Rush University that they are accredited as a provider of the continuing nursing education by the American Nurses Credentialing Centers Commission on Accreditation. And this activity is being presented without bias and without commercial support. And I can tell you that none of these ladies here have any bias or commercial support for that either, okay? So welcome. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa Maxwell, and I'm a project guide with the Greenhouse Project. And I have been with the organization for 3 years and 3 months. But prior to that, I was involved with the Greenhouse Project because we were the third adopter of the model. I was so blessed and fortunate to work with the village of Redford in Redford, Michigan, where we built 2 homes, and I was not only the administrator, but I was also the guide who operated the 2 homes there. So I do have intimate knowledge of the implementation of the model, what it takes to operate the model, and just the greatness that happens in these models to see the growth in both the elders who are living there and the staff who work there, and also some of the opportunities that we continue to work with. And one of those areas is the meaningful life and engagement, finding the time, the necessary time, to engage our elders in meaningful life and supporting them in their abilities there. I'd like to have my panel introduce themselves and let you know where they're from, and then we'll go into more detail once I give a presentation on some elements of meaningful life, and then we'll turn it over to the panelists, okay? And during the presentation, throughout the presentation, feel free that if you have any questions, you can ask them at any time, but just know that we'll have time at the end to also ask questions, okay? So I'll turn it over to...
My name is Rebecca Reed. I'm at Rest Haven, which is in Holland, Michigan.
My name is Cindy Smith. I also work at Rest Haven in Holland, Michigan, and I am a Shabazz.
Hi, I'm Brittany Swanson. I work at Providence Seward Mountain Haven in Seward, Alaska, and I'm the social worker.
Thank you, and I think Brittany and her team from Seward, Alaska traveled the farthest, so round of applause for Brittany and her team. And she was just telling us that they don't have any snow up there right now. Well, we know where that is, don't we? Let's see if this clicker is going to work. Oh, so they just introduced themselves. So here's the agenda for today. And we're going to just briefly look at the survey outcomes from my interview from 2013 and also 2014, and kind of identifies why meaningful life and engagement is important for the elders living in the homes. we're going to briefly define what meaningful life and engagement is. We'll explore the 5 dimensions of engagement. We'll talk a little bit about the how and the who should be engaging our elders. A lot of times it's might not be who you think it is. And so we'll cover that. We'll have our panelists talk about their own experiences at their homes, which is very unique, and some things that they've done to ensure that there is meaningful life for the elders. And then at the end, if we have time, depending on how the panel questions go and the presentation from them, I'll come back and talk about some things that get in the way from the staff perspectives. We have some information from Shabazim who have shared actual words of wisdom saying this is what really gets in the way of us being able to provide this meaningful life that we know is important, but just it's you know, it has different elements to it. And then I will share some educational resources that are available through the Greenhouse Project so that it can continue to support you on your journey in providing those meaningful lives to your elders. So this is my interview from 2013, the results from the family. And as you can see from the slide up there, let me make sure I get it on my sheet here. So 2013, the items with the greatest opportunity, and let me first ask you this. How many of you know my interview? Okay, I've got a few hands up there. So for those of you who do not know, the Greenhouse Project partnered with my interview, which is a research organization. And when I was an administrator, our organization partnered with my interview to do customer satisfaction surveys on both family members and the employees and the residents that we cared for. And so what the Greenhouse Project did a couple years ago was to partner with them and offer these satisfaction surveys free of charge to the adopters. And so we had people in 2013 start to turn in these surveys, and they consolidated the information for us so that we can see what areas were important. And this slide shows what areas were important to the families. And you can see that on the second bullet there, items with greatest opportunity to impact recommendations of people coming to live at your homes was meaningfulness of activities. And then on the lower part of that slide, 5 items with lowest % excellence scores, that first bullet there was, again, meaningfulness of activities. Now, we have at the Greenhouse Project, through webinars and different other educational opportunities, have been promoting how important it is. So we've been getting the word out there so that people know how important it is that activities or life enrichment opportunities and meaningful engagement is just as important as everything else that happens in those homes. And so with that word getting out, people have been doing much better. And I want to show you from 2014 the results. From here, my interview again, and you can see that the items with the greatest opportunity to impact recommendation, meaningful life and activities did not even make the list. But it still was on the list of the 5 items with lowest % excellent scores, and it was number 3. But you can see what else was important, again, to the families. So that's one reason why this is a really important conversation to be having from the family perspective. So let's delve into what is meaningful life and engagement. And I will get this clicker to work right. Can you proceed the slide? Not working. love technology when it works. Thank you. So, meaningful engagement is an important part of living a meaningful life. And you can see from this slide, meaningful engagement is defined as actively participating in daily routines, personal tasks, social interactions, hobbies, rituals, and celebrations, charitable acts, and maintaining a connection to the community. So meaningful engagement provides a rich framework for living a meaningful life, and it's easy to lose sight of all of this and the goals of meaningful life and engagement because the houses are incredibly busy. And I think the Shabazine can attest to that, there is so much task-wise that they need to accomplish on a daily basis that, it's not a surprise that this particular element of creating that meaningful life is sometimes put on the back burner for the Shabazine. And so, what we strive for is that introducing new concepts and reintroducing the importance of meaningful life and engagement so that people understand that, again, this is just as important as the cooking, as the personal care that's being given to the elders there. Meaningful life is just as important as those task-oriented things that get done. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the 5 dimensions of engagement. And so we have here personal rhythms and caring for self, alone time, social relationships, rituals and celebrations, and having community both inside the homes and being able to access the community outside the homes. And life is a journey. I don't need to tell that to you. But it's a constant balance of, the comfortable, worn experiences that each of us have and the discovery of new experiences that we have on a daily basis. And sometimes the spontaneity of things that happen are some of the best experiences that we can have. And our lives can stimulate us intellectually. They can stimulate us emotionally, spiritually, physically or socially. And you can have big experiences like attending a loved one's wedding or even a conference. This is a huge experience in your lives, but those experiences can be small too, like myself this morning being the first one in line to go get coffee here. And then seeing subsequent people coming to get the coffee too. So those little experiences are also what makes up, the makeup of our lives. And everything that happens to us is what makes life meaningful for each one of us individually. And our lives are a constant blend of these 5 dimensions of engagement. And that's what makes our life rich and satisfying. And so, when you think about everything that we do that's doing and being, and we're going to talk about that in the next slide, that all of this together has to be recognized and valued within the context of each individual person. So what I'm trying to say is that what's meaningful for me is not going to more than likely be meaningful to you. And so we have to identify individually what's important to each and every person. And as it comes to the homes, we need to be doing that for each elder living in our homes. Thank you. So working in partnership with all the members, this is the who of meaningful life. It's not just up to the Shabazine to be providing this meaningful life. It's everybody who has involvement within those homes that help to get to know who the elder is. And, every discipline has a different relationship with those elders that are living in the homes. from the dietitian to the therapist, social workers, the shabazin, the guide, the director of nursing. And everybody who has those relationships should be sharing the information that they know about these elders. And so that's what makes it richer, a richer experience for those elders when we can collaborate and we know more about each of those elders from those different perspectives. And so many people might think that it's up to the activity director to provide that meaningful engagement for the elders solely, but that's not the case. Again, it's up to everybody who's working in those homes to partake in building those relationships. And many of you who maybe are not Shabazim in here, or you might be a nurse or you might be a guide, you know those relationships that you have that are special with the elders that you interact with every day. And those relationships are extremely important to those elders, and they probably look forward to you visiting them. Could we go to the next slide, please? Oh, I did it. It's working for me now. So I want to talk a little bit about doing and being. And I wanted to mention this concept because they're two different things, and Dr. Thomas has, in different conferences and even some written material, talked about being and doing. And in our earlier lives, we do a lot of doing. You know, we're working full time, we're going to school, we are taking care of our children, our families, and we're constantly doing. And sometimes the being is far and few between just to be. I sent out a post one time. I'm not that big of a poster on Twitter or Facebook and stuff like that, but I did have an experience during the summer where my husband said, you know what, you just need to take a break and relax. And so I was sitting on our enclosed porch, and while I was being, just sitting there relaxing, these hummingbirds came up to our hummingbird feeder. And I was able to take a picture of the hummingbird drinking from the hummingbird feeder. And yeah, that was a little bit of doing. But if I hadn't just been sitting there and relaxing and being, would have never had that opportunity to see that wonderful nature happening. And being, though, is what happens, it seems like it happens in our later lives, and our elders seem to have that opportunity to be more than they have the doing part of it. The two of them, though, are very important. It's not that one is better or worse than the other. It's both of them that make the being and doing of our lives and the experiences. And this next slide will show that it's a common misconception that we just do one without the other. Being and doing are separate actions, yet the two are inextricably linked in our everyday experiences. Every experience falls somewhere on the being-doing spectrum, and in elderhood, just as I mentioned, it's oftentimes a significant shift towards the being side of the continuum. And I have a little note here that there's further information in Dr. Thomas's book, What Are Old People For? How many of you have read that book? There's a few hands out there. I would strongly suggest that and recommend. What a wonderful book. It's one of his earlier books, and we actually have people read that book for individuals who are going to become educators for your sites, and they actually do a book review during one of the nights to talk about that particular book. This little thing is just not working for me. Hello? Sorry. So in the homes, the staff understand the importance of doing and being and strive to find the right balance as determined by each elder, right? And a meaningful day is not measured by the number of activities, but rather by the quality and the significance of that engagement. And so, this brings up if bingo, because, the big 3 B's in long-term care is bingo, birthdays, and Bible study. I got it. There you go up here. And you know what? Some people really enjoy that. But that's the go-to for many long-term care organizations in the traditional sense, that those are the 3 areas that they do. And I remember having a conversation the first time that our homes were surveyed. The compliance survey monitor from the Department of Health came into our homes and wondered, one, where was that activity calendar? Because it wasn't just posted right in front so that everybody could see. And she was concerned that there wasn't meaningful engagement happening with our elders. And so I had to have that conversation with her and do my part in educating the state about what do you do on the weekend? And I remember this conversation vividly with her. I said, what do you do on the weekend when you're at home with your significant other? Do you wake up and say, we are going to do bingo today at 2 p.m., and we're going to do Bible study at 10 a.m., and then we're going to have a birthday party, not for you, but for everybody who had a birthday during the month of May. And she said, no. And I said, myself, on the weekends when I have a routine, but it certainly isn't that strict of a routine. And so, I decide spontaneously how I feel and what I want to do for the day. And that is very important to how we treat our elders in that dignified way to ensure that whatever we're doing is meaningful to them. And if they say they want to do bingo, we will do bingo. But if that is not, it's not going to be just a place card, that's what we're going to do, because that's what traditionally long-term care has done. So it was an interesting conversation to have with her. She was very impressed with our homes and with the work that we were doing. And I can tell you that first survey, we didn't get any citations for the 2 homes that we had, and so it must have been a good conversation. I was nervous about it, but you know what? It went off really well. And so now is the time that I'm going to let our adopters have a chance to speak with you about their unique ways of how they are embracing this meaningful life concept for their elders. And the first one to go will be Rebecca and Cindy from Boersma Cottages at Rest Haven. And you have a lot of snow right now, right? Oh yeah, they're in Michigan. So if you know the state, it's usually like your hand, a mitten, and so you're over here, right? Yeah, right here. So they're getting a lot of lake effect snow. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves again, let us know how many years you've been open and your positions, and then go ahead and talk to us about what you guys have implemented there at the cottage.
Again, my name is Rebecca Reed, Rest Haven. It's in Holland, Michigan, again, on the little mitten over here. We've been open 7 years, so we are one of the more first. I remember actually visiting Redford and Tupelo, being one of the first homes before we opened. My position here, as anybody that is sometimes in upper management kind of knows that you have a wealth of different things that you do. I'm the activity director, social worker, co-guide, and dementia coordinator for our continuum that we have. So I'm going to pass it over to Cindy.
And again, my name is Cindy Smith, and I am a SHPAS, but we also, of the coordinating positions, I hold an activity position. So I'm in charge of some of the activities there. Just us two? Okay. Wonderful. Yep. So one of the big areas of making that meaningful life is just creating real home in everyday life, which is very easy to do there because it is such a home environment and such a family setting. So things like setting the table, folding towels, eating together, sitting in the hearth area, watching TV or activities that are planned there. And another thing is making their room very homey-like for them and having those special things within their rooms. In fact, I had mentioned to one of our elders that lived there, what to you is meaningful and important? And besides the first thing she said, which was finding a man, which surprised me, she said the relationship that she had with us and also her room and having her own bathroom was very important to her. And she loves angels, so her whole room is just covered with angels. And if one of us sees an angel, we bring it over her and add to that collection. But it's fun to see the elders come together, like folding the towels together. They are helping each other know you have to fold it this way, and and just working together and feeling like that sense of belonging and just ownership in the house and what they do together.
Next, I'm going to talk about having routine is sometimes good. Sometimes an activity calendar with a greenhouse is kind of a taboo word. You're not supposed to have any type of activity calendar. But with saying that spontaneity is really good, I could probably ask any of you to pull out your cell phone and you would have some type of calendar event on your going. Not every single one of our days are spontaneity and just go with the flow. Even today, we're running by a calendar directly of when we have to go here, when we have to go here, when we have to go here. So knowing that there's room for having a little bit of routine and having some structure is really good. In our house, we have 10 elders, and currently right now, I would say pretty much all of them have some stage of dementia. And knowing that routine can sometimes be really good for people that have dementia as well. And I'm sure for many of you that are working with elders that are in your home with dementia, knowing that, having them know that, what time is lunchtime, what time is dinner time. Right after lunch, we read devotions, and we have devotions or a hymn sing every single day. Usually, if we do have a planned activity, it's right before lunch. So our elders, they know that there's some type of routine. So, even though that they suffer from dementia and they suffer from memory loss, with enough routine, they can sometimes remember those certain things. So even though they might not remember what activity is going on or what are we doing, they know if they gather in the hearth area that something's going on. So we have found that some routine is good. We kind of get around some of those regulations of we don't actually put direct times on our activity calendar. Usually we'll have like an afternoon or an evening activity event. So it's not like your normal nursing home where you've got 5 things going on in the day, but usually I would say like our first shift does one and our second shift does one. And we leave it kind of open. And usually like our first shift does certain activities and our second shift will do certain activities. But definitely looking at, there is some worth in having some structure and looking at knowing that if there is some structure, will it help you intentionally do something, whereas, doing activities, part of my life and being an activity director, I know how easy it is to put activities at the back burner because it's easy to be like, well, I've got, dinner to cook and they've got to eat, so I've got to do that first. Or Mrs. Jones has to go to the bathroom, I've got to do that. I can't take time to sit down and read the newspaper with everybody right now. So I know how easy it is to put it on that back burner. So, sometimes having that calendar will make it be like, this is intentional, it's going to get done. And it also has saved us a little grace when the state surveyors do come in. They do like to see that little piece of paper posted with some type of activities. Also knowing that sometimes having an activity calendar is sometimes beneficial for family members. Sometimes family members, because they're not in the house every single day, they don't get to see that spontaneity that's there. They don't get to see all of those wonderful moments that you guys get to have with the elders. So sometimes having that activity calendar when those families walk in and they say, oh, yeah, Mom, oh, this was going on, this was going on. I think there's just kind of the stereotype of, that, things should be going on. So even looking at when we're touring people to move into the greenhouse, sometimes having an activity calendar can even just work for good marketing for, showing loved ones that are looking for placement for their loved one that, there are some things that are going on, but, let's also talk about what the greenhouse is about and that spontaneity and doing some of those different things. Just really quickly, one of the things that we really try to promote is the use it or lose it. And we do this with a lot of our brain and body wellness. We really try to encourage exercise as much as possible. If that's playing ball, bowling, which Cindy might talk about, is one of our favorite activities of our elders right now. Anywhere from walking club to just walking around the house to engaging them to try to get them to walk for the meals, from their rooms, and then also that brain wellness, looking at the reminiscing, looking at, reading, all of those many different things.
So talking about some of their favorite activities, especially bowling, we have this plastic set, and it's very awkward at times and kind of humbling to be sitting on the floor, setting up all these pins in front of each elder and taking turns. But it's so worth it to see the joy and the thrill that they have when they get 3 strikes in a row and we all gobble at them because we call that a turkey. And so they just love that. And then another one that we found that is very fun is we made these nylon rackets and have a balloon, and we make it kind of a group competition and see how many times we can bat it up in the air. And it's so fun to see them get all excited, and we have made it up to over 100 before, and you should see their expression, we did it, we did it. It was just neat to see that they're a part of that. Moving on to the next one, engaging and being a part of the community. I found that when asking the elders and asking the staff what was meaningful to them, one of the number one answers that they said was family and relationships. So I thought that there was value in creating a family event once a month in which the elders and the staff and family can all be invited to and come together and just get to know each other and just have a fun time. So we've done things like game nights where we were doing minute-to-win-it exercises, and although the elders didn't necessarily participate in some of that, they had a blast watching their family and the staff make fools of themselves. And we've had like a night on the farm where we had a family member that had connections to being able to get some petting farm animals, and it was a great time just being able to have those animals hands-on and see them just cuddle. We've also had parties for holidays. We have our big old potluck that we have come to love, and we just had for Halloween a costume party bingo night. So it was fun to see everybody come dressed in that. I also tried to include bus outings, especially in the summer. We have more than we do in the winter, of course. But that can entail eating out either at restaurant or having a picnic somewhere. We find community events to do. We've gone to the art prize and walked around and viewed art along with the rest of the crowds. We've gone to churches and watched some of their church programs, and sometimes I've been a part of that, and they always got a kick out of seeing me actually up performing because music is a big part of my life. I also try to bring in special events that are, a lot of times family members will come up and say, I've got a sister, I've got a friend that we know would love to come and sing for you or play the piano, and we hook that up. They're always loving that entertainment coming in. And I have had friends that come over that used to be former teachers that, just will expand on what a holiday's meaning originated from or something like that, and just get them to enjoy those out in the community also. And then we quite often we'll try to connect with some schools, especially homeschoolers. They think that that's a great opportunity just to get their kids out there and interacting and share some of what they are learning in their music and writing poems and such. We have churches that will come in, they're caroling groups that, again, is a great opportunity for them to serve and to interact and enjoy each other.
So next I'm just going to talk about a little bit how we made this happen. Cindy kind of mentioned this activity coordinator role. Does anybody in their homes have an activity coordinator role? Awesome. Like I said, we kind of opened this 7 years ago, and as the activity director,
Can you ask them to change the slide?
oh, can you change the slide
Not working.
on the computer, guy?
Thank you.
So like I said, we opened 7 years ago, and when we were touring the different greenhouses, and me being the activity director at the time and knowing that I am so passionate about activities and life engagement, I can't even talk about it enough. So I wanted to make sure that it was intentional, and when I saw all the different coordinating roles, I said, why isn't there one for activities? There's one for food, there's one for housekeeping, there's one for scheduling. I was like, where is activities? So working with my project manager 7 years ago, or 8 years ago, and we were planning, I said, I really want to make an activity coordinator role. Like, I think this is important, and I want to make this intentional. And as I can say this, for being the activity director for 7 years there, I have never done one activity in my greenhouse home. Yay! And for some of you, you might think that, it was crazy. But with that, we have started this activity coordinator role. I did this because I really feel, for those of you that are activity directors, we're not in the house very often. We go in, we go out, we do MDSs, we talk with elders occasionally, but do I know the elders as well as the Shabazz? I don't. So am I really the one that should be planning the activities? Am I should be the one should be doing the activities? And I've just found, how great this role has really been in sustaining meaningful life in our greenhouse home. Right now, Cindy, we've kind of gone through, and there's a lot of debate out there. Do you do rotating roles? Do you do permanent coordinator roles, positions? And all I can say right now is Cindy is standing, and she's the most humble person you've ever met, talking about humility and humble, but she is amazing. I can't say enough about her, and our house and our home would not be or have as much meaningful life as what it does without her, and I'm so thankful for her every day. But with that, knowing that she has got such a gift, she's permanent in the role, and she could stay permanent there forever and ever if she would have it. But knowing that our different Shabazz do have different opportunities to also help out with that, also saying that we do have an activity co-coordinator that we as well have that can assist Cindy in any ways. But now Cindy's going to talk about a little bit what she does with her role.
So usually it starts out in making a monthly calendar. I'll get on the internet and search or just engage around in the community asking what activities or events are available for a month. And then I'll take that information and kind of ask the Shabazz what they think or the nurse think, or come to the table and I have this idea that, what do you think about, one was a train show. I thought that'd be cool to take them to a train show and see. I offered that to them and they're like, no, not really. So I think we're going to scratch that one. But they, made their suggestion of wanting to go see Christmas lights. So we are implementing that. So it's nice to be able to use the elders and get their feedback and get any ideas, because the staff and the nursing, I'm always running things past them. What do you think? Do you think this will work? And they will either say the yay or nay and help me implement that. But definitely we have an elder council meeting before our monthly meeting that can also draw out some of those suggestions of how we're doing. So once a month in that monthly calendar, we have the daily activities, but then I also try to do at least one special event that we talked about that can can engage everybody in one time. And usually I will then make a flyer out for the families, probably a key member of the family, and then they can spread it throughout their family. But it will just tell them about the event for the month. In that letter, I'll also share if we have a bus outing that we need volunteers, I'll include that in it and invite them to sign up for that. And I do have a sign-up sheet that I found is valuable. If I am going to need volunteers to push for an outing, that way we can have the family opportunities for them to be a part of it first, and then if I need more help, then I'll engage in the community and look for volunteers elsewhere. But then if I'm not the one implementing that activity, at least then the other staff have that list of who to expect, and if there's a change, then they have that phone number right there too. So I found that to be very helpful. And then we do have an activity coordinator overall, Rest Haven too, that I do use as support to help me if I do need volunteers, or when there's somebody that calls and asks specifically to want to be at the Borsma Cottage for an activity like school groups or church groups, because it's such a neat environment and such a homey place that people feel comfortable, that they specifically ask to come and perform at Borsma Cottage. So I usually hand that over to her, and then she schedules all the details. So I do get support from her. And then purchasing the supplies, because I'm doing this on a regular basis, it's nice to be able to keep your eye open for secondhand stores and things like that to purchase supplies and for future events to come. And that sometimes that saves the money. But I love being able to decorate the house as far as for the seasons and the holiday events. And I think that it just gives them something new to look at and to help keep them oriented to, the time of the year and the season that we're in.
So I'll just quickly talk about my role as the activity really fast, as it's more boring. But basically, I'm there to support Cindy in anything that she needs. So she knows that she can call me anytime that she needs it. I do all the boring stuff, like the MDS and the care plans. Yay! I also monitor all the activity documentation. I think one thing really quickly that the Shabazz let go really quickly is make sure that you count everything that you do. And I don't know how much, I'm sure like the activity directors in this room are like harping on their Shabazz as much as possible. Make sure that you are catching all that spontaneity, because one of those things when the state surveyors walk in, they want to see that the elders are doing something. So make sure that you are, that they're talking with the other elders in the room, they're watching TV, they're in their room reading, they're folding laundry. Make sure that you catch all of those things that they're doing, because that's so important. So I monitor a lot of that activity documentation. So when we have our monthly meetings and I'm like, hey guys, it's not looking so good lately, so that I can kind of go over that. Also, all new hires for the Shabazz role, I do hiring from anything, how do you run an activity? How do you invite them? What do you do during activities? How do you engage them? And then as well as I attend the monthly meetings to just support with suggestions and ideas and the big things that are going on.
Thank you very much, Rest Haven. And now we're going to talk to Brittany about time slips. And first thing, Brittany, if you could let us know how many years your cottages have been open, your homes have been open, and just repeat what your position is. I know you're going to come up here? I'll come up there. All right, great.
Okay. So hello, everyone. I'm Brittany Swanson. I'm the social worker at Providence Seward Mountain Haven. We've been open for 5 years, and I've been in the position for 4 of them. What else did we? That was it. Okay, I do want to, before we start, just give a shout out to Jen Doherty. She's here. She is our she is our activity coordinator, or our life engagement coordinator, and she's also our certified occupational therapy assistant. And like Lisa was saying, you know, life engagement belongs to all of us. It's really all of our responsibility. I'm a very small part of it, just so happened to be the one speaking today, but Jen is a huge driving force for our life engagement, and she's got a couple of really great crew that help support the Shabazz. We do a lot of similar things as these ladies do, and our life engagement crew helps with some of the bigger planning, transportation, bigger events, but we really do help the Shabazz with what happens in the lodge. So Jen, you're awesome. So just a show of hands to get started, is anybody familiar with the time slips method or? Cool, all right. Anybody a certified facilitator or ever seen a session before? Nobody, okay, great. So, so time slips is a storytelling, it's an activity that we use at Mountain Haven that's really more than just an activity. And the reason I fell in love with it was because it's an opportunity for our elders who have basically lost their social roles in life, which happens pretty frequently, to become a storyteller and create something of meaning and value. So for our elders who were once a mother, a father, a teacher, a fisherman, they no longer have those roles to fulfill. And so that's really where the basis of time slip started, was creating a way for them to have a role to create value and meaning, which is very fulfilling. So Time Slips is an award-winning nonprofit that's dedicated to creative storytelling. And it replaces the pressure to remember with the freedom to imagine and create. I don't know if the slide back there, if you can actually read. Can I see yours, Lisa? Of course, I don't have the picture. Yeah. Don't be prepared or anything, but okay. So if you can read, this is a one of our time slip stories that was created in a one-to-one with one of our elders, and it was turned into a piece of art that's actually hanging in our greenhouse now. So the image comes from the Time Slips workbook, which you can get if you become a certified facilitator. And because I wanted to seek out ones that didn't have any real copyright restrictions so that we could use them in other forms such as this. So a little piece of her story was taken and printed onto the image that we used to create the story. And it reads, "Her name is Karen. That looks like snow, so she is probably in Alaska. She is showing me how to do my therapy. It helps my arms and shoulder. She is feeling wonderful. She has a smile on her face. She likes to please and work with people. She can smell the fresh air. It's so refreshing." And just to give a little bit of background information, this was created by an elder who really isn't, she's not in those early stages of dementia quite yet. And Time Slips really works best with elders who are in the mid to late stages, who can not focus so much on the facts and pull from what they know. They can be a little bit more creative. So you wouldn't know if you didn't know this elder, but it's very fact-based. She has an OT named Karen that's working with her at the time, so she really just pulled the facts that she knew to create this story. But obviously from her perception of the picture, this woman is at the beach, this elder lives in Alaska, she interpreted it as snow. So it does make a fun story, but it really works best with elders in that mid to late stage of dementia. So the next slide. So some background about Time Slips. It was actually created in 1995 by Ann Bastings, Ann Davis Bastings. She had just graduated with her PhD in theater arts and dance from the University of Minnesota. And in the years following her graduation, she was She was really drawn in about with her passion for how senior theater positively impact aging performers and their families as well as the audience, which led her to begin a project called the Interactive, make sure I get this right. Yeah, the Interactive,
Intergenerational storytelling projects for people with memory loss.
there we go. Which they have a funny little anecdote on their website that when they answered their phones, people were like, what? So they changed it to time slips pretty quickly. It was created in 1995 and began doing these small storytelling groups. And by 1998, she got some funding through the National Brooksdale Fellowship to test and replicate the time slips. So the approach to time slips. The storytelling approach offers an elegantly simple revolution in care, a clear shift from managing behaviors towards engaging the individual and building a sense of community. And part of their mission is really about the age of medicine and it offering few solutions to our elders, and how time slips provides hope by opening an avenue for meaningful connection among residents, clients, family, and staff. So these are the core steps to the time slips process, which if you were to become a certified facilitator, you would get training in this. And certification basically is you do some modules on the background of time slips, how it was developed, what the foundation is, how you use it properly. You practice a lot, and you submit your practice stories to what they call a master trainer for review. They want to make sure you're really using the method appropriately, and it would take maybe a couple of months to go through your practice stories and your training, and you could become a certified facilitator who then could facilitate the sessions at your own greenhouse, or some go and do freelance sessions as well. So the core steps, you really start with creating a special event, and that would be through a special place where you meet. It could be that you put it on your activity calendar or something. You're going to have a time slip session. Everyone's invited. Meet at this time. We like to put on coffee and tea, and we welcome our elders to come to our administration building, where we have a private room. Everyone can sit around a table together. It's not as noisy as it is in the lodge. We've tried doing sessions in the lodge, but there's visitors, there's cooking, there's a lot going on, and the elders can be easily distracted and lose their thought. And that might be the one really powerful piece that they were going to add to your story, and it's gone. So we've found that hosting in a quieter area works better for our elders. You want to welcome all of the storytellers. And if you're doing it in your greenhouse, you're obviously going to know your elders really well already. So as everyone's filing in, we're saying, hey, glad you could make it. But if I was to say do it in a facility that isn't my own greenhouse, I would individually go to every elder and say, thank you, Nancy, for being here. We're going to have a great time, and do a welcome so they really know what's going on and that they're appreciated, that they're there. You want to ask open-ended questions. So everyone's going to get the same image to look at, and then we're going to start exploring the image with open-ended questions, which sounds really easy, but sometimes you can easily start going into well, what is her name? And even saying what is her name, you're already assigning the gender of the person and assuming that they don't already have a name. You just leave it open. Who is this person? What do we want to call them? And just let it be completely open to the elder's interpretation, which can result in arguing and it does often, and you have to include it all into the story. There are no wrong answers. So if someone thinks it's a June and someone thinks it's a George, it's a June or a George. It's going to be everything. Everything's included into the story. You write down each piece of the story that the elder contributes, piecing it together as you go. Sometimes that means pieces go in the beginning and you might have to push some down to the end until you can get some sort of flow to your story, which you just become better at as you build more stories with elders. In the beginning, it's a bit awkward, and your stories might sound a bit awkward, but you'll get better at the flow of it. You retell the story. Sorry. Are we good on time? Okay. Retell the story as you go, building towards your final retelling. So you keep going back through and reminding your elders what they have contributed to the story, what we're going to next until you get to that final retelling. And then finally, you want to create a lasting product for the whole group, which at this point we have a lot of stories that we've compiled. Everything that we do at Mountain Haven goes on to the Time Slips website, so they're published for anyone to come and enjoy and read, but we also have them written on paper that we can share with our elders and either create a book to be passed around. We can go back and read some of the stories and enjoy the work that we've done. And it's also nice to retell a story that we've done before to start the session off, to kind of refresh their memory about what we're going to be doing. We have a couple ideas about how we're going to bridge this into the community too, including having our local elementary school students illustrate some of the stories that our elders have written. So this is a picture of one of our elders down in the building that we actually host our time slip sessions in. And she's in front of a couple of the art pieces that we've had made that have small parts of larger stories that are printed over the image. And she definitely has ownership over the one of the little boys fighting in the back. That's her picture. Everyone knows it. She'll show it off to anyone that'll listen, which is great. That's what we want. And we've taken some of these images to our local art festivals and had them on display for the community to try to work towards our greater goal of breaking down a lot of those stigmas of dementia and nursing home, and that, this is what our elders can do and they can contribute, and it's not a scary place to be. And then when our elders actually get to go to the festivals, they see their pieces on display as well as the other community pieces, so they're just even more empowered. So I have a story. You should have an image on your table of a man trapped in a dryer. If you want to take a look at that, I will read to you the story that was created by our elders when we looked at this image. Okay. So when we held this session, each elder was given the same image of this gentleman trapped in the dryer. And we just started out with the open-ended questions, and the story was compiled. This is our final product. His name is Abraham, and he is a fool. He is no Cinderella. He got himself into a pickle, didn't he? He doesn't know how to get out. How'd he get in that way? Well, I'd say he's kind of stupid. I can't imagine a grown man getting in there. He probably feels hot and desperate. I think he feels like a kid again. It looks like he's trying to tie his shoe. Who else is around? Only the person who took the picture. There is somebody else there watching him. Maybe his wife is there. Oh, she's there. She's laughing at him. That door looks too little for that hole there. There are kids running around, playing pranks too. What will happen next? Well, that is the $64 question. He's going to get dizzy. He says, "Call me Hot Harry. I'll never do that again." In the morning, he will put his shoes on. So that's the story we ended up with. with this image, and that probably took 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour for our whole session. And you can see some things fit really well. Some elders were maybe fixated on a piece of the story that didn't necessarily go with the flow, but everything is included. And in the end, they have this product. They enjoy hearing the retelling. They own it. They've created it. They look forward to the next story that we have. There's definitely competition between our elders. And like I said, if you choose to become a certified facilitator and you practice, you'll get better at kind of managing when elders disagree or how to include everyone. But it's been an awesome experience for us to have. And this is the website, timeslips.org, where you can go to get more information about becoming a certified facilitator, and you can browse through all of their published stories on there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Brittany, to Rebecca, and to Cindy. And again, we'll have a couple moments at the end to allow for some questions that you might have specifically to them. As I mentioned, I just wanted to cover briefly some of the things from Shabazim, who have said these are the things that keep us from engaging in meaningful life and engagement. And I'll just briefly go through these. One of them, obviously, is time. And, you know, some of the things that what will help is think which elder would help in join. I think it was Cindy who said, you know, they could be helping with folding some of the kitchen towels and things like that. And so just engaging them to assist with some of the things in the house. Invite an elder to help straighten up their room. Ask the elder to give advice on how they want their room kept. Start a conversation about a photo or picture in their room. And plan an activity that's based on each elder's interest. And simple things that are just in the moment is really important. But time was definitely something that the Shabazim said, just don't have enough of it in the day. And when they get busy with the tasks of the cooking and the cleaning and the caring and all of that, you know, that got in the way. And so what Rebecca and Cindy came up with, and I think I learned yesterday from the pre-con with Shabazim, was that creating an activity coordinator. That seems to be very helpful. It's been very successful for them. And it ensures that the time necessary for this meaningful piece of the lives of the elders that you care for is being taken care of. And so maybe that will work for you too. Another area, and I lost the thing right here. I'm not a little discombobulated up here. I've got paper everywhere. The staff challenges here is comfort. And so this piece is that not all Shabazim are comfortable in engaging with the elders. You know, we focus a lot in our training, and even as a certified nursing assistant, we do a lot of training on clinical care, ensuring that people know how to care for people clinically. And so when it comes time to saying, oh, and by the way, now it's important that you also provide meaningful engagement for your elders, that there's not a comfort level there. And so that just tells me that we need to spend more time in our training and providing that support for the staff so that they are comfortable. And so some strategies is to just start that conversation again. Everybody likes to hear about everybody else's life and you know, share stories about their lives, and then practice listening with some follow-up and open-ended questions, something that we go back to our core training in. And you know, a good question can lead to other things, and so you know, those are just some different ideas. Another challenge for the staff was age, that, you know, Sometimes the age difference gets in the way. And so you have an individual who might be, a millennium or in their 20s, and they're engaging with somebody who is 80 years old, 90 years old. And so finding something that they can relate to together. And some suggestions are that learn about that individual's time period, that maybe it's the 1920s, the 30s, the 40s, music from that time, movies from that time, and have those discussions so that you're finding out about those eras of how important and what were they involved with during those times. I can remember meeting a gentleman at one of the homes who worked with Thomas Edison to erect the first streetlight. And that was pretty cool to find out about that. Boy, did I have a lot of questions for that one. And a final staff challenge is the, wait for it, I think we're going to get some help here. Language. If because of the diversity in our workforces, sometimes English is not the first language, and so people are having to learn English. And sometimes the elders with some of the difficulties of hearing that comes with old age, that could be a problem. And so just becoming, more comfortable and maybe having the elder reach out and share and teach English if the participant is willing. And so that's just something that, they could get involved with. And then the last one here is the actual tasks, that get in the way. And some of the things that you can do is planning ahead, brainstorm things that are happening at certain times of the year. And I think you heard from Cindy, she's looking in the future of what are the holidays going to be, and incorporating and soliciting from the elders during their meetings that they're having, getting information about what they'd like to see, getting information from the other staff, from families. So there's many people that you can involve. And going back to what I said at the very beginning of this presentation, it does not all fall just on the Shabazim. It's everybody within those homes that has the responsibility to bring meaningful life and engagement to the elders that are living there. So that's really important. The educational resources that we want to share with you. So we have some modules through the Greenhouse Project. And if you don't want to write everything down, I believe this PowerPoint presentation or this PDF is available on the peer network, and you can download it so that you have all the information that's in this presentation today. But Teresa Williams is the National Sales and Marketing Individual for our Meaningful Life and Engagement modules. And has anybody gone online to use these modules? Okay, we have a couple people. Could you just briefly say how are they and have they been valuable to you? Informational gives you some ideas. Great, thank you. So there's actual evidence that they're helpful and they're available to you. Again, this is how you can access them. The other educational resources are, Pioneer Network. Go online there and see what's available. Culture-oriented organization, culture change organization. And then Culture Change Now. I think that's also Dr. Thomas's Culture Change Now. Changing Aging too, right? And then Quality Partners, and clicking on for nursing home, and that's having to do with the National Advancing Excellence. So that's important. Eden Alternative is also a viable area where you can learn and get more educational resources about meaningful engagement. And so that brings us to near the end of our time together, where we'll open it up to questions that people have of our panelists or anything that I can answer. So just let us know, and we do have microphones that we could probably run around, and if anybody has any questions. Yes. Okay, I can hear you.
For me, when I go through, one of the biggest things that you can say is to try to get them in their shoes, in our elder shoes. I mean, if you had to just sit there all day long, and for a lot of our people that with dementia, they can't initiate a lot of things on their own, knowing that they need the Shabazz to be able to initiate those meaningful life activities. I mean, even if it's folding laundry or, sitting, looking at photo albums in their room, just really trying to get them in their shoes. What does your day look like? And two, I think really, making it, this is something that's just got to happen. I mean, I know it's hard to be, forceful, but just saying, life is just as important as, going to the bathroom or eating. I mean, what makes life, and just really, having them see, how important that is. And, and I mean, if you haven't, really look at, it sounds like a lot of you, which is, awesome, have that activity coordinator position, and looking at, is that something that you want to look at, or, something different like that, what will make that, work in your home.
And if I could add to that, I think the value of bringing everybody together is that we invited these panelists here, but I think any organization sitting out there would probably have some ideas on what to share, and we're going to open it up on what's important to train the Shabazim on, to understand that is just as important as any other task that's happening in the homes. And you have your hand raised, so I'll turn it over to you.
We have our calendars for the whole month. So last weekend, on my last Saturday to work before I came here to this wonderful greenhouse project, actually her name is Annette Robles, and I'm so proud of her because exercise wasn't working that morning. So we came up with like, oh, let's go get the balloons, blow it, let's do it, Vanessa. I was like, okay, let's go try it. They were just on the living room, and we blow the balloons, and we just started just like playing. And you have to see his face. Actually, the elders were so happy that morning. They enjoy it. And you have to see, like one of our elders' name is Dr. Rogers. You have to see his face. His hands was like, oh my God, Doc, you can do it. Come on, let's just do the balloons. And, it's just like anything, just come from your heart. You don't have to have a specific day or time. It's just like, just do it. Thank you. Just wanted to share.
Anybody else? If you could pass it over to her, that'd be great. Thank you.
We struggle right now with getting our families to understand the greenhouse homes is their home. Your life isn't always scheduled, so our meaningful engagement might be a little different. We have an elder that has great-grandchildren who are adopted from out of the United States, loves to talk about them. We have elders who like to come out and sit and have tea and have a snack while we're cooking dinner. So how do you get the families to understand we're not a traditional setting? We do have our scheduled devotions and things like that, but how do you get them to understand our engagement with them is meaningful in a different retrospect as they're individuals, and they don't necessarily want that structured every day at 10 o'clock, we're going to hit a ball or we're going to blow balloons, because that's not something our elders typically enjoy. So how do you get them to understand this is what they're doing and this is meaningful to them?
You know, that's a great thing. And remember that many people out there, families, are familiar with the institution, and it's through education, continual education, and I think Cheryl can speak to that, that it takes a long time to help people understand that it is a different way of living within these homes. And I experienced that, 6 years ago when I was in my own home, operating as a guide, and it was just continually educating the families and inviting them in and involving them in so that they start feeling like they're a part of that process too. And that's really important.
So I'll just piggyback on that. The modules, they're wonderful resource and tools for us to use. We typically don't have a new Shabazz do them until they've worked for us for 90 days because they're learning so many other new things. But use those modules. When they first came live, we did it like an in-service. We gathered together and did them together, the 4 modules. And then moving forward, we have new staff do the 4 modules. So in there are all those pieces and parts of how to make it happen. And I think it really is helpful. So I would use that, definitely. And then you always have to have champions. And peer-to-peer works the best. You're going to have some Shabazz that really get it and have them mentor the others. So,
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. Time for one more question, because I think we're actually past our time. But one more question, if you all are willing to entertain it.
My question is that in our home, we struggle with, we have a variety of dementia. We have like the first stages to the very last stages. And we don't have the activity coordinator role, but I pretty much do most of the activities in our home. I guess I struggle to try to figure the balance between not so much of the first stages as the last stages where, they can't talk. Some of them are contracted, so trying to find that balance of an activity for them. That is my big, where I have trying to figure out what the best activity for them is. And we do reading, like devotionals and Bible studies, but
I can address one aspect of that is, like with our exercise group, I try to do a variety of some of the more cognitive aspects where they are doing like the motion act in responsive, watching what I'm doing, but then we always include also where it's the more reactive, where you're doing the balloon at them, you're doing those things where it's more reactive and they don't have to necessarily understand, what they're doing, they're just reacting. And so including some of that is helpful, of doing a variety so that some of the more cognitive people can, get what they are, the level that they're at.
okay. Thank you.
Music, I'll just say like music, ball, and 2, just know, being with you, like the elders that are more cognitively impaired, just being in the group and being around people is, stimulating enough, so just knowing that. But making time that, even though you might only have 2 people that are engaged in like a sensory STEM activity, knowing that it's okay to just do something with 2 people.
Yeah, that's what, sometimes that's, like if we do like a craft or something, some of the ones that can't even, they won't help, but I'll always bring them up to the table so they're still there.
Yep, and that's great that you're just involving them, And 2, making sure that it's okay to just do something with 2 people at a different time. Sometimes the more cognitively intact people sometimes take over, and they're like, I want big go grass.
Yeah.
But just making sure that you have time for those people that might need, those low STEM activities.
So thank you very much for attending this conference. Round of applause for these ladies, please.